There are monuments so famous that they seem beyond question. They stand in the mind not as problems, but as conclusions. The Pyramids of Giza belong to that category. We think we know what they are. Royal tombs. Old Kingdom Egypt. 4th Dynasty. Massive stone mountains raised by a powerful state more than 4,500 years ago. And yet, the deeper one looks, the less simple that certainty becomes. Not because the pyramids are unreal, and not because history has failed, but because the material facts are more exact, more disciplined, and in some respects more difficult than expectation allows. The Great Pyramid of Khufu was completed in the early 25th century BCE on the Giza Plateau, west of the Nile, as the largest of the 3 principal pyramids at the site. Its original height was about 146.6 meters, and each side of its base measures roughly 230 meters. Its 4 faces were laid out almost exactly toward the cardinal directions. These are not legends. These are measurements, and this is where the contradiction begins. A civilization working with copper tools, stone hammers, sledges, ropes, wooden levers, and human coordination produced a monument whose scale is obvious to the eye, but whose precision only emerges when the eye gives way to measurement. What if the true mystery of Giza is not that the pyramids exist, but that they were executed with such controlled intent? What if the unsettling part is not their grandeur, but their discipline? History does not break easily, but here it bends. The conventional understanding is clear, and it is supported by a large body of archaeological evidence. The pyramids were built as components of royal funerary complexes during the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom, roughly between 2575 and 2465 BCE. Khufu built the Great Pyramid. His successor Khafre built the Second Pyramid, and Menkaure the Third. These monuments were not isolated shapes in an empty desert. They were parts of carefully planned complexes that included temples, causeways, subsidiary pyramids, cemeteries, boat pits, and administrative spaces tied to kingship, ritual, labor, and the afterlife. The site was integrated into the political and religious machinery of the Egyptian state. In that sense, Giza does not emerge from darkness. It belongs to a developmental sequence. Earlier kings experimented with monumentality at places like Saqqara and Dashur. The step pyramid of Djoser had already transformed the royal tomb into a statement of state power. Snefru, Khufu's predecessor, pushed pyramid design through failure, revision, and ambition at Mihdam and Dashur, where the bent pyramid and red pyramid reveal a civilization learning, correcting, and refining. By the time Khufu chose Giza, pyramid building was not an impossible leap. It was the climax of an architectural tradition already in motion. And yet the Great Pyramid introduces a new level of exactness that continues to provoke serious inquiry. Not because scholars doubt that Egyptians built it, but because explaining precisely how they achieved certain outcomes remains difficult. The monument's original polished casing stones of fine white Tural limestone would have reflected light with an almost unnatural severity. Granite for the internal chambers and structural elements came from Aswan far to the south. Inside are carefully arranged spaces: the subterranean chamber, the so-called Queen's Chamber, the King's Chamber, the Grand Gallery, and the relieving chambers above the King's Chamber. This is not myth. This is stone, and stone arranged with intention at a scale that resists easy simplification. The modern drama of discovery did not happen all at once. The pyramids were never truly lost. Classical writers described them. Medieval travelers saw them. The Great Pyramid's currently used entrance is associated with a forced tunnel cut in the 9th century under the Abbasid Caliph Al-Ma'mun, when the monument was entered in search of treasure. But the slow modern unfolding of its most consequential details belongs largely to the 19th century, when curiosity gave way to survey, excavation, and measurement. In 1837, the British officer Howard Vyse, working in harsh conditions on the plateau, used gunpowder to open spaces above the King's Chamber. There he found relieving chambers marked with quarry inscriptions, including the name of Khufu. Those rough red marks, made by ancient work crews and hidden for millennia, tied the monument directly to the king long associated with it by later tradition. But here is the unsettling part. Identifying the builder did not solve the harder question. It sharpened it. A few decades later, between 1880 and 1882, Flinders Petrie arrived at Giza with instruments, notebooks, and an unusual obsession with exact measurement. The plateau was already famous, but fame is often the enemy of accuracy. Petrie wanted numbers. He surveyed casing lines, sockets, chamber dimensions, passage gradients, and angular deviations. In the heat and dust, amid broken stone, debris, and the constant difficulty of reconstructing original surfaces from damaged remains, he produced a record that changed the conversation. Grandeur became geometry, awe became data, and the data showed something extraordinary. The Great Pyramid was not merely large, it was controlled. Its sides were astonishingly close in length. Its orientation was astonishingly near true north. Its internal lines revealed consistency rather than improvisation. Precision beyond expectation ceased to be an impression. It became a measured fact. That precision is easiest to admire from a distance and hardest to explain up close. The Great Pyramid's four sides differ by only small amounts, measured in centimeters across lengths of more than 230 meters. Its orientation to the cardinal points is accurate to within a tiny fraction of a degree, often described as better than 4 minutes of arc. The monument originally rose with a slope that maintained geometric consistency from face to face. Beneath the missing outer casing and the weathered mass visible today lies evidence of planning that was not approximate but exacting. None of this means perfection. The pyramid is not mathematically flawless in some supernatural sense. The bedrock beneath it had to be cut and leveled. Stone blocks vary in size. Internal spaces contain irregularities. The exterior casing is mostly gone, and much reconstruction depends on surviving sockets, core masonry, and measured remnants. Yet the more reasonable the picture becomes, the more impressive it is. The builders did not achieve abstract perfection. They achieved practical precision on a colossal scale. That may be even more difficult to comprehend. The materials themselves tell part of the story. The bulk of the structure was built from local limestone quarried on the plateau. Fine casing stones came from Tura across the Nile. Granite used in the King's Chamber and related structural spaces came from Aswan, hundreds of kilometers away. The often cited estimate of roughly 2.3 million blocks remains an approximation, but it captures the order of magnitude. This was not only a geometric project, it was a logistical one. Stone had to be quarried, shaped, transported, staged, raised, and placed according to a coherent plan maintained over years or decades. Scale alone does not explain Giza. Organization does. For a long time, popular imagination filled the gap with slavery and brute force. Archaeology has complicated that image. Excavations south of the plateau, especially the work associated with the Ancient Egypt Research Associates, revealed worker settlements, bakeries, administrative areas, and evidence for provisioning a large labor force. The picture that has emerged is not one of alien intervention or magical engineering, but of a highly organized state capable of mobilizing skilled labor, feeding crews, and sustaining a permanent construction economy. The builders of Giza were not ghosts in the sand. They were workers, specialists, foremen, planners, and administrators embedded in a royal system. And yet, explanation is not the same as completion. Mainstream scholarship holds that the pyramid's remarkable alignment could have been achieved through careful surveying based on astronomical observation, solar methods, or some combination of both. One long-standing line of argument proposes that Egyptian surveyors used circumpolar stars to establish north with high accuracy. Other researchers have argued that solar observations, including shadow-based methods or equinoctial techniques, could also have produced a near-cardinal layout. There is no scholarly need to invoke vanished civilizations or impossible tools, but there is also no final consensus on every step of the procedure. The precision is real. The exact method remains debated. The same is true of construction logistics. Ramps were almost certainly involved in some form, but what kind, at what stages, and in what configuration remains contested. A large straight ramp, a zigzagging ramp, a wrapping ramp, and more complex combinations have all been proposed. Internal transport theories have also been discussed. The mainstream position is not confusion, but plurality. Multiple practical solutions may have been used at different phases of the build. What survives in stone does not preserve every temporary scaffold of human effort. This is where responsible mystery begins, not in denial of evidence, but in the space between evidence and total reconstruction. We know the dynasty, we know the king, we know the materials, we know the site was part of a broader funerary and administrative landscape. We know the monument's dimensions and orientation are exceptional. We know organized labor, not fantasy, stood behind it. But here is the lingering tension. Even with all of that, the Great Pyramid still has the power to make modern certainty hesitate. Because the deeper lesson of Giza may not be about a lost secret. It may be about underestimation. Modern people often imagine the ancient world in broad strokes, as if old technology must mean crude execution. The pyramids refuse that assumption. They reveal a civilization capable of converting symbolic ambition into engineering order with extraordinary control. They show that measurement, planning, and repeatable technique can exist at a very high level without iron cranes, steel tools, or modern mathematics written in familiar form. History does not break easily.